Please be seated. Thank you, Reverend Crean, for the warm welcome back. It's nice to be home. You spend a lot of time with grandchildren over the summer, and I don't know if you've had the experience, but when you spend a lot of time with your grandchildren or young people, and you're not with adults very often, you get out for the first time to speak with adults, and you don't know how to talk. They use a different language, and I thought it would be fitting that I would share a joke from the young people. This time of year, they say, "Papa, what is the cutest season of all?" I said, "I don't know." Autumn. That was the joke. Anyways. I'd like to welcome all those who are watching at home as well, and I hope they have a great Thanksgiving weekend with their family and friends. Most of us would agree with me, I'm sure, that we've all had life-changing moments, and it can be both positive and negative. It could be positive in the gift of a new child. They say in some circles, you're really not married until you have a child. A child changes everything. We know very much that children that come into a family do change everything. People that come into a community, a new person changes the whole dynamic of a community. We know that there are times in our life when there are some negative moments and significant changes that cause us to change the direction of our lives, to change our attitudes and the way we think about things. For example, when one loses a job, one loses a loved one at the time of death, through a broken relationship, loses stability. And especially, most of us would agree that when we don't have our health, when we lose our health and when there is illness, things change, especially when we're facing medical reports that are not in our favor. And I would suggest to you that all of us would agree on this Thanksgiving weekend that health is wealth. You are very rich to have good health. And today, we hear a story of 10 lepers who call out to Jesus to have pity on their lives. Because at that time, lepers were alienated from the community. They had no way of making a living. They had no way of being connected. They were disconnected from society. And so, in this moment, Jesus tells them to go to the priest. And one of them recognizes that something is happening far greater than healing of a physical ailment. And so the one recognizes that they have been made well and turn back to Jesus to thank him. Their lives are forever changed, for they are given a new heart, a new way of life, a new way of connecting. They can now belong in society. They have been more than healed. They have been made well. The 9 were healed, yet were not made well. And there is a difference. Much like when people are healed physically, they have a traumatic illness or a non-traumatic illness, they get better, they recuperate, things are back to their ordinary selves, and no lesson learned, no change of life, life goes on. And then there are some who recognize through a traumatic illness, especially anyone who's facing any terminal illness, anyone who's had serious challenges to their overall health, recognize that their life has changed forever. They see life differently. They value each day. They recognize it every day as a gift. They're not only healed and strengthened, they're made well. You see, it's like when you have a massive coronary, your life is never the same. Life's never the same. When a doctor says to me that part in your heart is only good for so many years, and after that it's between you and your God. Well, I'm 5 years past that 10 years. So you see life differently. You get up every morning differently. You are made well. The leper was made well because it was more than physical healing. He recognized now he had a new heart, a new life. He was saved by Jesus. He was made whole by Jesus. He came to a great understanding. He noticed that what had happened was far greater than anything physical. You know, although the 9 were healed, another form of leprosy remained. For their attitudes and their approach kept them distant from God. It was the fact that we yelled out, "Master, have pity on us." We went to see the priest, is what we did. And yet the one, he recognized the connect. That grace came from the face of Jesus. They saw their healing, the 9, as mine, where the one leper saw the healing as thine. They attributed their healings and favors to their skill, their actions, and they never went back. You know, it's interesting. When you have a significant challenge to your health, you always ask the one question, how long have I got to live? Or how can I live longer? Well, one doctor said to me very wisely, if we work together, we will have wellness. But if you work on your own, the I, you will still have the illness. He said, illness begins with I, wellness begins with we. My friends, if you remember anything I tell you in today's gospel, it's this. The lesson of the 10 lepers is this. We all receive God's grace, but it was one who connected the grace to the face. We are invited this Thanksgiving to recognize where our grace and blessings come. It is thine, not mine. It is you, Lord. You are the one. You are the one who gives us everything. Our abundance comes from you alone. The message of the 10 lepers is we all receive grace. The message of the one leper, only one was made well. There is much leprosy still in the world today. Much leprosy, much attitude, much approach, much leprosy that keeps people distant from God. And so the invitation and the lesson for us is to make the connection, is that when we receive, we go back to the source of the grace. That we turn to Jesus, falling at his feet, and we say, thank you. Like the leper who turned his gratitude into action, you and I are invited to turn our gratitude into action. My mother used to say, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a gift and never giving it. The highest form of appreciation is not just our words, but our actions. To live by gratitude. For thankfulness is only words, but gratitude is action. Making the connection And changing our direction may be as simple as accepting that a thanks living life is a life that connects the grace to the face. Today, many of us will gather around tables and break bread. It's amazing how many different kinds of bread there are. I even got really excited when they built another Cobb's Bakery closer to home. We all love bread. I think there's almost 39 to 49 different types of bread out there. But what makes most bread have its flavor and gives it life? It's the yeast. And that's what gratitude in action does for us. Pardon the pun, but it's the yeast we can do to lift up others and show God's flavor to the world by action of gratitude. Gratitude in action. I'll say it clear that the grace of gratitude was the leper's attitude, which became his beatitude, not his platitude, and changed his altitude with God. You got that, Bart? He connected the grace with the right face. Believe me, pardon the pun, but there's a lot of sourdough out there. A lot of sourdough bread, flatbread, naan bread. Someone said in the last service, we need to use the image of we need some raisin bread to raise people up. And we raise our gratitude in action to God by showing to others the face of God, which is the face of thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving, and always, it's the yeast we can do to connect God's grace with the right face. And then we will be made well. Otherwise, we will remain like the other lepers, distant and disconnected. Disconnected from our God who wants to give us so much abundance. May the life-changing moments of our lives help us to recognize that each one of us here has been given abundance in God's grace. We are here today to give thanks to God in the Eucharist. The Eucharist means thanksgiving. And so we are invited, the old saying, growing up as a child, you are what you eat, you know. We will partake of the Eucharist. We will take the Lord in. We will consume the bread of life to be bread, to be life-giving, to feed others. And we do that by recognizing where that giving grace comes from. So let us give God the glory today. Let us connect the grace to the face of Jesus. Let us connect his love in all the things that we are blessed with. No matter what is thrown up against us, let us be mindful that God's grace is forever there with us. As we continue now with the Eucharist, we are going to praise our God in thanksgiving for all that God has done for us. For it's the yeast we can do. May Jesus Christ be praised. Amen.